ranking every NXT champion from worst to best. Number 13, Aleister Black, having only just won the NXT championship at NXT TakeOver New Orleans. It's pretty hard to put Aleister Black's title reign anywhere other than the worst on the list, simply due to the fact that he hasn't done anything as champion yet. His title-winning match with Almas was very entertaining, and there's no doubt he'll be a very good champion as his popularity is huge and his in-ring work is incredibly impressive. But for right now, his run as champion will have to fade to the back of the list. Number 12, Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre's run as NXT champion should have been much better than it was, ending a little disappointing in all honesty. Of course, a lot of it wasn't his fault, as injury cut his career as an NXT superstar very short, but it did make his run as champion less effective and memorable. McIntyre returned to the company with plenty of hype surrounding him after a brilliant few years away on the independent scene, where he managed to turn himself into a main event player, and he dominated NXT from the moment he returned. Sadly, with his injury, it just didn't turn out to be the impressive and talked about NXT championship run that it could have been. Hopefully, Drew will have more luck now since he returned to the main roster. Number 11, Big E. The New Day member is one of the former NXT champions who picked up the belt before NXT really took off, and therefore, a lot of people forget about his impressive 168-day run as champion. Big E was incredibly over in NXT with his gimmick of pinning people in 5 seconds instead of 3, really helping to put him on another level. Yet at the same time, he was also introduced to the main roster as a heel, which did make things slightly confusing at times. The main reason why Big E's run isn't talked about on the same level is that he didn't have the classic takeover matches that we get to see today against some of the best wrestlers, instead facing the likes of Brad Maddox, which would never create a 5-star classic. Number 10, Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn might be one of the most important superstars in NXT history and was certainly one of the most popular, but his run as NXT champion didn't live up to much, mainly due to the shortness of it, with his run being one of the shortest in history. The journey of Zayn getting the title might be the most fun of everyone who has held the belt. That is until Johnny Gargano eventually climbs the mountain, but the 62 days he spent as champion weren't the greatest. The problem wasn't that he didn't have an impact, it was more so that the story between him and Kevin Owens simply overtook the championship and became much more important. While that is a great sign of a feud, if that becomes more important than the title run, then it is hard to class him as a great champion. Number 9, Andrade Cien Almas. Andrade Cien Almas' transition from mid-carder to NXT champion was incredible to see, and something that really hasn't happened in NXT until him. And once he got his chance on the main event, it is fair to say he ran with it. Almas' storyline going from partying and not caring about his wrestling to a focused and determined athlete who wanted to become champion was incredible, and with Zelina Vega, NXT's greatest ever manager, by his side, the pair became a force to be reckoned with. Almas had amazing matches every time he put the belt on the line, especially his 5-star classic with Johnny Gargano. That will put him down in NXT history, so here's to hoping his time on the main roster is just as successful. Number 8, Bo Dallas. When you see where Bo Dallas is positioned in WWE right now, it's a far cry from what he was in NXT, where he was one of the greatest heels to ever perform for the developmental system, and it's a real shame that that character was never given a true shot in WWE's main roster. Dallas was NXT champion before the brand became a must-watch show for fans, and WWE really plugged it, which means that sadly, a lot of people either forgot or simply never saw the run that Dallas had as champion. As a cocky heel who fans simply hated, his character change was so naturally done without Bo having to change his act. Going from babyface to flat-out heel who embraced the hate, he still remains one of NXT's best characters and champions. Number 7, Seth Rollins. As the first ever NXT champion, Seth Rollins cemented his place in history and has certainly had the best career since holding the championship out of everybody on this list, already becoming a Grand Slam champion thanks to his WrestleMania 34 victory. Rollins set the standard for what champions in NXT would become, with everyone who has held the belt since living up to the title's impressive early history. He made the belt feel important and made sure that it was something that every wrestler should want. Just like others from the early era of NXT, Rollins was also hurt by the fact that he didn't have half of the quality wrestlers that the roster today boasts, but he still made the most of what he got and has gone on to have those classic matches we hope he would on the main roster. Number 6, Bobby Roode. Arriving with one of the greatest wrestling theme songs in history, it was clear right off the bat that WWE had high hopes for Bobby Roode, and the WWE Universe was full on board any decision to push him. The Glorious One brought a different style of wrestling to the main event scene in NXT, slowing the pace down slightly and focusing on body parts with a more old school style that led to some great matches, especially with Shinsuke Nakamura. Bobby carried himself brilliantly evenly as champion and really fit the part. From the suits to the robe, he really did have an old school Ric Flair feel and was the personification of what a champion should be. Number 5. Shinsuke Nakamura. The arrival of Shinsuke Nakamura was a huge deal, and his debut match with Sami Zayn still ranks up there as one of the very best in NXT's illustrious history, as do his 2 runs as NXT champion where he put on several brilliant matches. His feuds with Samoa Joe and Bobby Roode produced some excellent matches. In particular, his battles with Joe, where the two exchanged the belts on multiple occasions, marking the first time WWE has ever done that with the title. Neither of his runs were particularly long, unlike others lower on this list, but it was certainly memorable because of the excellent feuds and simply because it was Nakamura holding it. Winning the belt on a house show in Japan did take away some of the hype, as the match was only shown after everyone knew about it, but did also prove that anything can happen at an NXT show. Number 4. Neville. It is such a shame how WWE is currently treating Neville, because anytime WWE has given him an opportunity in the spotlight, he has knocked it out of the park. He still remains WWE's best cruiserweight champion since the belt returned, and he's also one of the best NXT champions in history. He may get overlooked because he was one of the earlier champions. Neville became more and more confident as he defended the title, in a similar way to his cockiness with the cruiserweight championship. His matches with Sami Zayn are among some of the very best in NXT history, and his title run is well worth going back and enjoying on the network if you just haven't seen it before. Number 3. Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens really helped take NXT to the next level, giving fans a clear indication of exactly where the brand was going, focusing more on bringing in quality wrestlers that are already established to make it a strong third brand. Owens came in and made a huge storm in taking out his best friend, and the fact he took the NXT championship away from Sami Zayn really put him over as a top heel right from the start. From then on, Owens was a fantastic NXT champion who had many amazing matches against people like Zayn and Finn Balor. One of the main reasons KO's title run was so good was because of the fact that he debuted on Monday Night Raw as the champion, instantly making the title look fantastic, especially when he defeated John Cena while being the NXT champion, really adding credibility to the championship. Number 2. Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe's time in NXT was as destructive as everybody had hoped for, showing that his best work was still to come and that he could easily keep up with the younger talent, quickly turning heel to engage in a thrilling feud with Finn Balor that created some amazingly hard-hitting matches that only added to Joe's badass character. He turned heads with his excellent work and surprised WWE management by just how good he was. In terms of in-ring promos, there hasn't been anybody better than Joe in NXT, with the Samoan submission specialist controlling the full sale crowd, ensuring everyone knew just how tough he was. Number 1. Finn Balor. As the longest reigning NXT champion in history, it is pretty hard to say that anybody else had a better run with the title than Finn Balor, who truly became the poster boy for NXT and made more of an impact as champion than anybody else. Balor helped put NXT on the map and make it a must-see show with huge takeover main events that established him as one of the very best wrestlers in the world, which is why WWE had huge plans for him when he first moved to the main roster, until injuries derailed his progress. Bringing his demon character to NXT also allowed Balor to showcase a different side to his personality. When you consider just how much he did for NXT, it is hard to think of anyone who had a better title run for now.